ZANU PF is describing this visit with the ANC delegation as an opportunity to discuss issues of mutual interest and share the reality on the ground in Zimbabwe, South Africa and the region candidly and frankly with their revolutionary sister, the ANC. Well, to give us further insight into the significance of this visit, I spoke earlier to political analyst Dr Pedzisai Ruhanya, and I began by asking him what the reasoning might have been for party-to-party engagement.
There is any reasoning fundamentally to meet ZANU outside of broader society, but I think it is the insistence of ZANU not to be exposed to the community and to the international world by getting information from other players in the Zimbabwe crisis. And I think they simply want to deal with the ANC without allowing other forces to come in to say their side of the story. But that is not the issue for me. The issue for me is that if you meet the ZANUPF leadership that they proposed from the letter that is circulating, where ZANU is saying it is the one which is supposed to meet the ANC, and they are saying that the ANC will meet its Secretary for Administration, Patrick Chinamasa. It's like going to a company, you go at the gate of a company and you want to have a meeting and you meet security guards and you think that you have met the company owners. To really address the Zimbabwe situation, you need to meet the stakeholders, or what they call the stockholders. And the stockholders is the military. So the likes of ZANUPF, Chinamasa, and the civilian politicians in ZANU are not the ones that matter in the Zimbabwe crisis. So if the ANC meets these guys without meeting the stockholders, it's as good as meeting security guards at the gate of a company.
So who should they be meeting then directly? I mean, the vice president is an army man, was, or is he still?
An army man or an army person, always an army person. They should meet the presidium of ZANU. That is the president, his two deputies, all of them, they are military people. And I think it would suffice if they meet those people. But broadly speaking, there must be ways of involving the security apparatus of the state in whatever discussions are going on in Zimbabwe. Because for the past 20 years, it has been proved that the decisive power blocker in the Zimbabwe crisis is the military. Where ZANU has been in trouble, it is the military in 2000, it is the military in 2002, it is the military in 2008, it is the military in 2018 and 2019. So if you want to deal with the Zimbabwe crisis, you must confront the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is the security apparatus of the state, led by the military.
Who is the most senior person in the military in terms of giving directives and guiding the military's position in terms of how the country is being run?
The most senior military person is the commander of Zimbabwe Defense Forces. That is the Army General Valerio Swanda. But he has a command structure that he works with. He doesn't work alone. He has a command structure, which they call the command structure. And that command structure is his lieutenants that they meet to run the affairs of the state, working with the president. So it is the Army General working with his commander-in-chief. These are the people who matter. These civilians in ZANUPF don't matter. They are puppets of the military set up in Zimbabwe. We have a party-state military complex, with the military being the decisive power block in everything that happens in Zimbabwe. And wherever there has been opportunities to have a democratic breakthrough, it is the military that has stopped that. In 2000, they stopped that. In the election in 2000, in the 2002 election, they stopped that. In 2008, they did that clearly when ZANUPF lost parliament. They lost the first presidential runoff elections, and they lost all urban municipalities. And the military went clearly out in army uniform to campaign for ZANUPF to return Gabinete to the inclusive government of 2008 to 2009 to 2013. So it is the military in Zimbabwe that runs the affairs of the state. And where ZANU is in problems, it is the military that rescues them. It is important to confront them. It is important to understand what are their needs, what is it that they want, and how can what they want to be addressed.
So let's assume that they do meet the right people and have conversations with these right persons. What can be achieved though? Because there just seems to be so much at stake, so much of a difference between what the opposition say the situation is and what the ruling party say the situation is.
No, there's not much difference. What the ruling party says the situation is a lie, is a phantom, it's delusional. The state, the economy of the state as we speak, we have 800% inflation. We have more than 90% unemployment. We have a surrogate currency that does not work. So that's the crisis. The livelihoods, the daily forms of existence of our people tell you the nature of the crisis in Zimbabwe. People can hardly have 3 meals a day. And that is the crisis. People can hardly afford the health facilities. They can hardly send their children to school. The question we have is a livelihood question. Let's not even talk about politics, but the question of survival. How do you put food on your table? Even the deputy president, who is a military man, when he wants to have checkups, he flies to China. That tells you that there's a problem. The president himself, when he fell sick sometime in 2017, he had to fly to South Africa. Even those with the diarrhea, they actually fly to South Africa to have that small problem of diarrhea. But these are the ruling elites, people who have money, who go to South Africa, who go to Singapore. Mugabe himself died in Singapore. Singapore is not Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is not Singapore. If we had no problem, why are they not dying at Parenia Hospital where Vice President Musika died, where Vice President Ngomo died, where Vice President Muzenda died? This class that is in power here, when they have a headache, they will come to Gauteng, they will go to Pretoria, they will go to Cape Town. They don't go to Parenia. Well, why? Because the health system is decomposed. So there's a crisis.
All right, so there's a social crisis, economic crisis, but it's being described as a political crisis that the politicians need to solve. How do they go about this then? They will have these conversations. I get a sense that you're not very optimistic that much will be achieved.
Yeah. What needs to be done is to address the corruption and decomposition of the political. To address the corruption and decomposition of the political requires the president to stand up and reform the state. When President Mugabe was removed in 2017, the expectation of Zimbabweans was for the incoming president to reform the politics of the state, that there should be law and order in Zimbabwe, that there is nobody who is above the law, that we are all equal before the law, that there shall be no citizen who abduct another, that the state shall operate within the premise of the constitution. So he must return the country to democratic legitimacy, where the rule of law is supreme to the rule of politics. It's simple, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to simply abide by your constitution. We have one of the most brilliant constitutions, which is simply not being respected. There is no need for us to look for help from anywhere. The state should simply behave, respect the law, respect the constitution. When you have elections, let those elections have meaning.
Why do you think that there doesn't seem to be much of a desire or appetite to do those simple things, follow the law and the constitution?
Because if they do that, they will lose power. These guys are simply running the affairs of the state without the sovereign will of the people of Zimbabwe. So if they were to do things the right way, if elections were to be run in a free and fair environment, if people were to exercise their civil and political liberties, if there were to be rule of law, if corruption were to stop, they would lose power. That's the problem. They cannot do it because they say, as Professor Jonathan once said, we cannot reform ourselves out of power. So reforms means ZANU PF will go. They've been in power since 1980 and they've destroyed the gains of the 1980s. For instance, they say there's no crisis. But we had a huge problem in the 1980s called the Gugurahundi problem, which these ZANUPF people actually agree that the state abused power. But they simply do not want to accept that this is an issue that needs to be addressed before this generation passes away. The Gugurahundi problem is one of the serious political crises we face across generations if it is not addressed. The massacres that took place in the 1980s must be addressed, and this is the generation to do it, but they don't want to do it because if they do it, they lose power.
Is there any chance that the army can be depoliticized? It seems as if, as you've described, that they've been entrenched in Zimbabwe's politics for decades. How does one change that without actually changing the whole government and the whole system?
Tough one, because you do remember, if you look at the history of Zimbabwe, that the army was implicated in the liberation struggle. They were part of ZIPRA, which was an armed wing of ZAPU. They were part of ZANLA, which was an armed wing of ZANU. So they were political commissars, they were soldiers and politicians at the same time. So what was needed was for to professionalize the army. That the national army is not supposed to be a wing of a political party. They played their role, which is very significant, which is undeniable in the independence of the country, in liberating Zimbabwe. But that was that. When they came to independence, they were supposed to separate the institution of the military, which is a national institution, but they've taken it to be a party institution. The police is a party institution. The CIO is a party institution. The army is a party institution. So they need to be professionalized. And they must know that they are an army of the people, an army of the state who live beyond politicians. Nobody threatens the army. They are soldiers of the people. They are soldiers of the republic. Even politicians come and go. Political parties come and go. But the institution of the army is an institution of the state that everyone, all of us, respect. And they should simply accept that. They don't accept that because there's an elite group within the army that benefits from corrupt practices. But they know it that is an indispensable institution of the state anyone who comes to power will find an army. Someone comes to power or someone goes out, but politicians abuse them, and it's in their interest, those in the top leadership, to be abused for certain benefits.
So we have this challenge then. The ANC has sent this delegation. Citizens are complaining about human rights violations. They're complaining about abductions. Would you say that things have escalated? Because these are not new phenomena. We've seen these over decades. Have things escalated in your view since President Mnangagwa took office?
Yes, they've escalated because the expectations of the people of Zimbabwe is that after 37 years of misrule, after 37 years of deploying the army, Gugurahundi, 2000 violence, 2008 violence, things will change. But things did not change because immediately after his victory, which was contested, he deployed the army and more than 7 citizens were killed in extrajudicial killings in August 2018. And in January 2019, over 16 citizens were killed in extrajudicial behavior by the army. Nobody was arrested, nobody was tried. So definitely things have escalated. But what also marked a huge difference between Mugabe and Mnangagwa is that whereas Mugabe combined repression and consent, the current regime has no consent. So each time there is a small problem, they deploy the army where it is not necessary. So things have escalated in the sense that we have a de facto one-party state where the opposition MPs are being removed from parliament, being recalled by someone who lost the election in the name of Kupe. Mugabe never did that. He never took away MPs from Changirai, councillors from Changirai, mayors from Changirai, and gave them to any other. But this regime, through its capture of the state, its capture of state institutions like the courts, have done that. So things have escalated also in the sense that civil and political liberties, yes, we had differences in Mugabe, but people could assemble, people could protest. This group, since it took power, they've stopped any form of protest, and any form of criticism requires jail term. For instance, so far since Mnangagwa has assumed the power, he has charged over 20 people with treason or attempts to move the government. But in Mugabe's 37 years of rule, he never charged more than 10 people with treason. This one is, in less than 3 years, has charged over 20 people with the attempt to remove his government. That is a treasonous charge. So things have escalated.
All right, so going forward now, I guess the challenge is what can be done? The ANC delegation is there. Can they make a plea? Please stop these abductions, stop these human rights violations, or is ZANU-PF, on behalf of government, going to continue to deny that these things are actually happening?
The only way that we can have a breakthrough is to face the beast in the face. If the ANC is going to be a nice going with ZANU, they will come up with nothing. Because the ANC, unlike ZANU, is a civilian authority. They run a civilian government. In Zimbabwe, there is no civilian government in fact. What we have are civilians that are puppets of the military. So we have a party-state military complex with the military being the overall elephant in the room, unlike the ANC. In order to have a democratic breakthrough, the ANC and the people who matter must stand to the bullish behavior of ZANU, confront the elephant in the face, tell them everything. And if ZANU-PF realize that it's expensive to remain defiant in the face of wise counsel from people who believe that things can be done the right way, they will listen. But if they don't confront them directly, nothing will happen.
So one hopes that this ANC delegation will get an opportunity to meet with the opposition parties and broader society. But I guess they're not going to find out anything new, really, are they?
They're not going to find anything new. And in any case, even if they don't meet them physically, there is always ways of getting the information to the ANC. In any case, there's nothing really that the ANC doesn't know about what is happening in Zimbabwe. There's nothing really new that is going to come out. What probably could assist to make a democratic breakthrough is for the ANC to be robust, to be no nonsense, to tell these comrades in their face that they are no longer fit for purpose, that they should reform or they die.